Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of the Ridgefield Playhouse Diversity Film Series bonus content. I'm Cheryl Washington. I'm your host for today, and we have a very exciting film that we're going to be talking about. And you just had a chance to see it, so I know that you're going to love it and you're going to want to hear the conversation that we entertain. Today's feature is Keeping the Change. It premiered in 2017 as a New York City romantic comedy about an unlikely love story of two people who meet in a support group. And just to give you an idea of some of the awards that it had celebrated, at the Tribeca Film Festival, winner of 2017, it was the winner of the Best New Narrative Director, Rachel Israel. Jury Award, Best U.S. Narrative Feature, Rachel Israel once again. And again, Nora Ephron Prize, special mention. So as you can see, the film certainly has a lot of accolades, and we're going to talk about this with our guest today, Freida Hecht. And Freda is the co-director of Beth Israel Chabad of Westport, Norwalk, Connecticut, emissary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe to Norwalk, Westport, Weston, and Wilton. She is also the founder and director of Circle of Friends of Connecticut, which serves children, teens, and adults with disabilities. Freda leads the weekly Women's Study Circle and lectures widely on women, relationships, Judaism, and Torah. Her wit and wisdom endears her to audiences everywhere. And she and her husband, Rabbi Yehoshua Hecht, live in Norwalk, Connecticut, and they have been blessed with 11, yes, I said 11 children. Freda, how do you do it? I need a tip from you. I only have one, and that's a lot. How are you managing?
Cheryl, thank you. Thank you for having me on today. It's a real honor and a privilege.
Well, we are delighted to have you. We want to talk about the film, but first I want to talk a little bit about Circle of Friends. I was so impressed by this foundation, this organization that you launched. Was it back in, I want to say, was it 2004?
Yes.
Somewhere around there? Yes. Okay.
2004.
Could you just give me the genesis of it? Just give me a thumbnail sketch of how it launched, how it first evolved.
Well, as an emissary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in this community and as an educator, I was noticing more and more the exclusion and of individuals and their families with disabilities. Mm-hmm. How are they left out of everything? Sports, birthday parties, socialization. So I decided to start some social programming simply to give them opportunities to socialize and to have friends. So
and how has it been going along? How has it been going for these last 18 years?
It just has grown and grown and grown. And Circle of Friends has been a source of programming in many, many organizations and institutions in the community. There was a ripple effect of organizations also providing programming for individuals with disabilities. So it has a tremendous impact, not only in our own programming, but in the community. And that's very gratifying to see.
So now how do you partner these children? How does that work? And I'm imagining adults as well. What's the process in terms of the partnership of it? The pairing of the students?
It's very simple. We match up high school students, teenagers, with children, teens, and young adults. And they go to the home for 1 hour weekly play dates. And then we also provide group social programs, trips, outings, interactions. And this is how you build community, because what you're doing is you're just bringing everybody together. And it's fantastic because not only the volunteer teams and their friends become friends, the families join together. They meet up at the library, at school lunch. They sit together.
That's great.
And they're inviting each other over for Thanksgiving dinner. It really impacts every facet of the community in a beautiful way.
So these relationships have a long-lasting effect, not just, for example, within a school frame, correct? I mean, it goes on exponentially, I'm assuming.
Yes. It's in every facet of life.
Fantastic.
Because parents tell me that before they would, for example, go to services at their congregation, they would sit alone. Now they see volunteer families who say, oh, let's sit together. And during lunch, Parents have told me their children sat alone during school lunches. Now the volunteer teens say to their friends, come, let's go sit near so-and-so. So really, it impacts every part of life.
I love the inclusivity of it because it really does speak to the culture. And this is the way it's supposed to be. It shouldn't have to be that difficult, right, Freda? I mean, I'm sure that you have a lot of challenges that you have to meet anyway. But to me, it doesn't seem like it's that difficult to be able to pair kids and adults, et cetera, with whatever their challenges may be, whatever those issues might be. It shouldn't be.
But, you know, people always ask me, what are the requirements? The requirements is be a friend. Smile together, laugh together, play together. You don't need a degree. You need to want to just give a little time of yourself.
Sure.
And you know what? And it
right.
comes right back to you because it enhances and transforms your perspective on life.
Absolutely. Really... Absolutely. In fact, I remember reading something in which you were quoted, and I love this quote. Friendship doesn't need special training, just an open heart. I love that.
That's true.
You said that. I think that that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the movie, can we?
Yes.
That's why we're here. So yes. Now the movie clearly has so many interesting nuances to different perspectives that sometimes we don't see in the community of those who are in the autistic spectrum. And I think that this really does make quite a statement. It's sort of like a landmark film, if you will. So I just wanted to get some of your own reactions to it, because I'm thinking also about Circle of Friends is very similar to what we saw with the support group in the movie.
Yes. So I want to share one more insight, because I think this will help us understand more of the movie and the impact. Circle of Friends was founded on a very important principle. And that is in Genesis, in the Bible, in the Torah, it says, B'Tselem Elokim Nivra Ha'adam, which means every man and woman were created in God's image. And what that means is that each one of us has a divine soul. And that really equals the playing field, because it's now not about how successful you are, what you look like, what you do, what you think, your traits, your accomplishments. It's simply that each and every one of us deserves the same dignity and respect. Why? Because we are all created in God's image.
Absolutely.
And that defines us. Our disability or non-disability does not define us. Who we are, created in God's image, is what defines us.
Absolutely.
So based on that premise, we can now understand more about what we hope to accomplish and also what this movie hopes to accomplish.
Okay, well, I see the movie as very hopeful. I mean, you take a look at these two individuals, the characters David and Sarah, and in a normal setting, and I hate to use the word normal, but in one of those typical rom-coms, you know, you see girl meets boy, you know, girl breaks up with boy, or vice versa. And you know, it's the same situation. It's kind of formulaic, if you will. However, I don't see the formula in this movie. I see something that is so far superior to what most of the standard rom-coms represent. What's your take on that?
It's just beautiful, because it really comes to show you how two people meet in a very unexpected way, because, you know, he's looking down, he's very resistant, he's looking to get out of there as soon as possible. And then remember, in one of the scenes, he wants to go back on the weekend, even though he's not obligated to go back on the weekend, because he met this extraordinary young lady.
Right.
And what's extraordinary about her is that her passion for life, she wakes him up in a sense. You know, he tells her, let's talk about the Brooklyn Bridge in humor and deflect. And then she picks up and it says, you know, I've never seen the Brooklyn Bridge.
Right.
So the way the whole romance emerges really talks to me in a different way, that really it's about two souls connecting in a very deep way.
Absolutely. And the fact that this was cast, I mean, how brilliant of Rachel Israel, how she put these individuals together who were on the autistic spectrum to play characters who were in fact autistic. How brilliant was that, and how brave was it?
I think that that is really what makes the movie so special, because you have many trained actors who are very good. Think of Dustin Hoffman in The Rain Man. But to have a person who feels it every moment of their lives and experiences that in their lives and now can portray it in a movie, that is, it comes from a very deep place. No matter how good an actor you are, at the end of the day, you go home and that's not your life.
Right.
Here, this is your life 24/7.
And you can't manufacture that. That just has to come internally and organically. And that's what we see with these characters.
And it's a difference between a photograph of a piece of art and the original.
Right.
The photograph may last longer and not be so sensitive to elements, but the original is the original.
Yeah.
So to me, that really created the brilliance of this movie.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah,
I wholeheartedly agree.
And the way they were able to portray, because it's hard sometimes to portray your life.
It is. It is. I wanted to talk about a few of the specific scenes because there were a number of them that spoke to me. And I know in having a mini conversation with you that you wanted to discuss it as well. So can we narrow some of those down, if you don't mind? I want to talk a little bit about, for example, the carousel. If you want to broaden that to our scope, that would be perfect.
Yeah, there were a few scenes that really touched me. Few that I felt very, very humorous, and a few that really touched me emotionally. I got very caught up in the moment. So to me, the carousel scene is so beautiful because he's petrified of the carousel. She encourages him to go on on the seat, not even on the horse. And then he has an anxiety attack, and he exhibits a certain behavior. You know, he starts making weird sounds, which he does when he has stress. And he says, right. But what's spectacular to me about it was two things. One is when they get off the carousel and he says, oh, it's allergies. She doesn't respond. She knows it's not allergies. All she does is she goes over to him and gives him the biggest hug. That really defines a relationship that is perfect. Why? Where you don't question. It's not always about why are you doing this? Why can't you control yourself? I love you no matter what. I've seen you in your worst moment, and I'm going to just give you a hug. And that to me shows what a great relationship is. I want that for myself.
Yes, very unconditional.
And she doesn't judge because she can relate to that. She has it in herself as well. And another cute thing I like is that she encourages him to go out of his comfort zone, albeit a little safer. She says, okay, you don't want to go up there? Okay, let's at least go on the carousel. So I like that too, where a partner encourages you to go out of your comfort zone. So that's something, these two things are something that is for every single person can learn about.
You know, she had a very uncanny and a very unusual zest for life that I've not seen in a lot of performances in movies. Hers kind of went beyond the normal scale of what you see. It just really was. I mean, and you, like you said, she encouraged his behavior, his sensitivity, his sensibility, and I think that that's what added to the real magic and the uniqueness of this film. Let me just go to, I don't want to skip all the way to the very end, although our audience has already seen it, but let's talk about that bus scene, if we may, because that was quite transformative in my opinion. Tell me about your thoughts.
To me, that last scene defined the entire movie, because to me, it sums up what this movie is about. Is sometimes I can't count, but you can count. And then we count together. In other words, sometimes no one is perfect. No one has everything in their lives. But you have some things I don't have. I have things you don't have. And together we make it count. Together we fill in for each other, complement each other, help each other, and are there for each other. So to me, that defined really what the movie is all about. No one is perfect. We seek perfection and we want perfection. And, you know, one of the things you mentioned was when he attacks the homeless man, he verbally.
Yes.
So if you want to know, in my opinion, why he's attacking the homeless man is because he sees in that homeless man himself.
It's a mirror image.
Exactly.
Yes.
So he attacks that which he hates in himself. That's what the founder of Hasidism, Israel Baal Shem Tov, writes in the 18th century. He writes that life is a mirror. We define life the way we look at ourselves. If you feel beautiful, you'll see beauty. Mm-hmm. And he sees in the homeless man exclusion, yes, ostracization, helplessness, mm-hmm, and he hates that in himself. So, yeah. So that's what I saw in that scene, which also was a very powerful scene, a sad scene, but a powerful scene.
It was sad, but I think that it was a necessary scene because I think it really did show the inner quality in him as someone who's trying to work out what some of those, and I'll call it demons for lack of a better word, would be. So I thought that was very integral to the film, and I thought that it really did speak a lot to how he felt, and like you said, how he saw himself, that whole mirrored image, if you will. Very, very, very much so.
Yeah, one more point there is that, it's bullying is a hierarchy. I was bullied, so now the homeless man is more vulnerable than me. I can lash out there. Yeah. So you see that in a sad way, that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to you are going to bully those more vulnerable because you were bullied. So
yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Because this is a diversity series, I wanted to just kind of go into, if you don't mind, the parents, because there was, it was that very affluent aspect, kind of distant, not really addressing what the issues are, a little bit of a denial, and a little bit of I don't want to call it classism. I don't know if that's the right word, but how would you look at those scenes? Because it really seemed, it was a little bothersome to me. I'm going to just tell you very honestly, because I just didn't feel that it really had that kind of connection. And I wanted to like the mother, although I love the actress. I love Jessica Walter. I mean, my gosh, she was a brilliant performer. But that, the scenes that were including her as mom and David as son, I just kind of felt like there was a little bit of a distance and a bit of a disconnect. How did you look at that? How did you analyze that?
I feel that the mother is, I think she's tired. Her son he's not 12 years old anymore. Mm-hmm. And she just wants to get past it and just not allow it to take over her life. She wants mm-hmm. to live her life. It's hard. It's very, very hard to have a young adult or an adult son who can't live independently. Mm-hmm. So from her perspective, it's very hard. But there were some very telling moments. She says to him, I want you to meet somebody who's better than you, smarter than you. And besides, mm-hmm. she also says she's weird. And he says something so powerful. He says, Mom, I'm also weird.
Yeah.
And when she says to him, I want you to marry someone smarter and better, she is. Look how she counts. So isn't that the mother's dream? So the fact that she's so clueless, that not looking at Sarah and saying,
right in front of her, right. She can't even see it. Exactly.
You don't even know how perfect she is. And even from a Jewish viewpoint, every Jewish mother wants a Jewish daughter-in-law. And he says, Mom, and she's even Jewish.
Right. It doesn't get any better than that.
It's almost like she doesn't hear anything. It's almost like she doesn't want to see what her son has and can have. Yeah. In the beginning, she says, you know what, David, I know you don't want to be there, but just get through it and you can go on with your life. But what life?
Right, exactly. I think she said something else about, well, what would you do if I weren't even here? Like, what are you going to do like after I die? I mean, I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but that also came up as though, okay, well now, I guess she was trying to prepare him for what she considered normalcy in life. But beyond that, because she knows that he's not going to be around, or I should say that she knows that she's not going to be around forever. And so now what is he going to do? How is he going to manage? In some ways, that could mean that she was very maternal in that situation, that she really wanted the best for him. But there was that strange dichotomy that did occur between, her kind of, ostracizing herself, if you will, and also, trying to make him fit in, which wasn't always the case.
Right. And did you notice in the movie where the grandmother and she says, my grandmother's an alcoholic and obviously living not in a wealthy lifestyle like David's parents.
Right.
And yet there is more of an acceptance.
Yeah.
So how does that define us? That is, again, it's not really about how wealthy you are, how affluent, how educated. It's more about how do you look at people? Do you look at people, everybody with dignity and respect? Or do you judge, oh, she's not from the right family. She's not from the right economic level. She doesn't have a PhD. Judge people by who they are.
Not
who you want them to be.
Right.
So I think in the movie they try to show you, here's the wealthy family, sophisticated. And here's the grandmother who just says, well, David, come on in. Doesn't ask any questions.
Tequila. Right, exactly.
So who gives more love in a sense?
Yeah, exactly. Let
me
ask you.
His mother accuses Sarah of being a gold digger. She doesn't even know. When he says, buy whatever you want in the restaurant, to her, it's like, literal, sure, I'll buy the whole menu.
Well, also, going back to the Sarah character, because she did say one of the lines was, and I was so proud that this was included. I mean, we knew what their challenges were, but the fact that she said, I have autism, I also have LD, which he didn't know what LD was, which was kind of funny to me. But, I loved her honesty. She was brutally honest, and she just let it all hang out with everything.
Yes. One more beautiful scene, if I may share, is when it's sad, is when he's a movie maker, and he shows her the movie of his life.
Yeah.
And his youth is so happy. And then he shows his adulthood, and he shows he shows his life imploding. Yeah. Again, he's showing how he perceives himself.
Yeah.
And she notices it too. She says, well, she said to him, I like the other part better, she tells him. So she's quite sharp in a sense. She's intuitive.
She is.
So that to me was also so beautiful, how she realizes how he views himself.
Right.
And she's not happy.
Yeah, because he wanted to kind of make it in Hollywood, because, he had the relative who was, a big famous film personality. Right. And so I think he kind of envisioned himself a lot like him. What was it? Matt Cohen, I think his name was. I can't remember from the movie. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there were those areas where he kind of had looked at himself to kind of parallel it, if you will, although it didn't seem as though it was as feasible because his career never, quote unquote, took off. Yeah, interesting. Do you think that there can be other types of movies, different genres, that would be much more inclusive of performances like this, whether they're on the autistic spectrum or just regular disabilities that we may not always address? Do you see the film industry, and I know that you can't prognosticate that because you're not a filmmaker, but can you envision that there might be other films that could be directed futuristically with this kind of performance bent? Just wondering how you might think.
I think that, again, it's a ripple effect. We have to keep encouraging and bringing it to the forefront in every way necessary, whether it's through film, video, music, lectures, programming, like Circle of Friends. And I think keep on pushing and encouraging and bringing it into the limelight. And then more and more and more people will begin to be more accepting and more inclusive and more, did I say more respectful of individuals who have, and again, we don't want to define anyone by their disability, but who have disabilities. Like one man wrote a beautiful thing. He says, please don't look at me as a disabled man. Look at me as a man who has a disability. My disability does not define me.
Right.
So the more education and the more we do, the better it is. The reason I don't think that there's so many films is because people want perfection. They love watching those perfect women selling Sunset. They love watching the perfect families who have it all, who look perfect, act perfect, who find their perfect bachelor. It's a good feel. People want good feel shows. They want to feel that life can be perfect. And it's not so. It's not so.
It's not. And it just seems like it's a very temporary fix. And it's not something that's going to be long lasting in terms of what reality really does paint for all of us. That's just not the way life is. Life deals with all kinds of situations, and that's not a perfect scenario. But I would hope that future films, and just like you said, different genres as well, will target themselves to areas where we have more of this inclusivity, because I think that that's what's important. I think that's the real healing power, I think, of keeping the change. Keep the change, because I think that that's so critical in terms of how we see things today. I mean, if you look around us, we have all kinds of things that are working against us, but that's the one thing that can work for us.
Exactly. And I think, again, one more like interesting thing I always think is that, going back to that idea that we're all created in God's image, because we all come from one creator, it means we're all one, part of one. And no one, we have to realize we are not complete if we're not in it together. If we're not in it together. That by us being accepting and respectful of every single person who comes before us, we're actually benefiting ourselves, and creating a tapestry of the world, a world we want to see, a world that we would like to see. So, one of the greatest things is seeing the impact of interaction with people of all abilities. It really transforms your life, because what you see a person who wakes up every single day challenged, struggles every single moment of their lives to overcome their challenges and their disabilities, and yet they go through life with laughter, fun, a hop and a skip. That's perfection in my mind.
Yeah, and that's humility also, Freda.
Yes.
I want to add that. I think so. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So if you want to seek perfection, this is where you look at for perfection, because that's perfection. In the imperfect world, we find the greatest perfection. So,
Freda, you said it all for me. I mean, this is you're astounding, really, because what you said really does offer a completeness to what this means. And I think that by summing it up in that regard, it just shows us some of our frailties in life, but we nonetheless, we still move forward, and we can still face the world every single day. And it's no different whether you have a challenge or not, because like you said, we're all part of the human race, and that's what's most important no matter what. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your insight. I really appreciate your insight. You made me feel more positive.
Thank you. I want to share with you a beautiful story. May I? Because I
Absolutely.
think so. I wrote down the date. In 1976, there was the World Paralympics in Canada, and there was a group of Israeli disabled soldiers who went to compete. And on the way back, they stopped in New York City, and they came to the synagogue of one of the greatest Jewish leaders of our generation, Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem M. Schneerson. And they came to services in his synagogue. It's called 770. And the Rebbe said, "May I speak to the soldiers?" And they said, "Sure, we would be honored." And the Rebbe said something so powerful that, to me, defines, if I had one mission in my life, this would define my mission. The Rebbe said, "I was told that disabled soldiers of the IDF are coming here today. But I want to tell you, I want to change that. You are not the disabled soldiers. You are the extraordinary soldiers of the IDF." Because what the Rebbe was saying, changing the paradigm of how we look at people.
Yeah.
You're not disabled, you're extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
And that's why, when I was growing up, I was taught, based on the Bible, the Torah, that we call people with special needs special, not because it's politically correct or it sounds nice, because they have special souls. And were we able to have the ability to look from the inside out, what would you see? A soul that burns so bright, it's blinding. So working and hanging out with people who have special needs or disabilities is really a privilege. It's hanging out with somebody who's extraordinary.
Right.
Extraordinary. And that's really what it is. And if you could look at people and say, "You're extraordinary, and I love being with you," that is the greatest gift for you and for them, for everyone, So to me, that's really what it is. That's what it's all about. Because birth, if you're in this world and you were born here, birth is God's message and telling you you matter. That you weren't born by accident. It's not a coincidence. It's not haphazard. You have a unique mission and purpose on this earth, and you matter and you're needed. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here.
Freda, you're preaching.
I'm saying what I feel.
I love it.
Saying what I feel.
Absolutely. I appreciate you illuminating us with these nuggets of power, these nuggets of humility, of humanity, because that's what it's all about as far as I can see. And that's what I think the real basis of Keep the Change represents. Right. And thank God for a film like this, because it really does show, like you mentioned, the soul. It shows the soul of our humanity. So I think that's really important. Thank you, Freida Hecht, for joining us today. We also want to thank, of course, the Aquarion Water Company for sponsoring the Ridgefield Playhouse Diversity Film Series. Always our best providers, and we're so happy about that. Once again, I'm Cheryl Washington. So happy to be with you today, and I can't wait to see you next time. All the best to you.